Hello, it's Monday, June the 23rd, and you are watching the latest Global Sports Social with me, Michael Bailey, sports journalist at The Athletic. Yeah, I'm still working on how the intros goes, but that was sort of my newsreader variety. Hope you enjoyed it. And thank you again for joining me for something that I'm trying to work out what it is and how it's going to look like and where it goes. So thank you for your patience. We'll keep figuring it out for sure. And thank you for all your messages. Although none of you have said you actually watched Geelong against Brisbane Lions in the AFL on Friday night or Friday morning, whenever it was, wherever you are. I hope you did get to see it because it was a fabulous game. It did not go the way I thought it would because I had tipped Geelong to win. Tipping is like prediction. It's a prediction league essentially, but they call it tipping here. The rest of my week went pretty well in terms of the tipping weekend, so I'm happy with that. But Geelong didn't win, which was disappointing, and I don't really trust them in these big games. But a great win for Brisbane. If you haven't caught any of the AFL, do it. And yes, me talking about Aussie rules football is going to be something you're all going to have to deal with because it's going to be part of the deal. I'll just try and keep it brief until I branch out into a whole separate series, don't worry. And yes, for Friday's viewers, I did get to do the mini golf with my eldest son as part of my belated Father's Day present. We went to the mini golf and I buffed his backside by being so good. And no, it was fine. It was fine. It was loads of fun. We really enjoyed it. We had a great time. And actually, my youngest son picked up on the fact that the mini golf course came with a few signs that said, "Caution, snakes." And he was very excited about this. To quote him, he said, "Snakes is my favourite caution sign." Now, we didn't actually see any snakes, but I kind of like the idea that this is how mini golf courses roll over here in Australia. So what about the sport? Well, I have been doing Game 7 of the NBA Finals, the deciding game of the NBA Finals. The season is over. OKC, Oklahoma City Thunder, have won it. The best team in the league all season, the best player in the league all season, the MVP. They've translated everything into the final silverware at the end. Gilgeous-Alexander was the MVP of the finals series. OKC won 4-3. And yet, can I wholeheartedly tell you they would have won that Game 7 on their own court had Haliburton not ruptured, I believe, his Achilles 7 minutes into that Game 7? No. The Indiana Pacers have been so good throughout this whole series, probably unexpectedly so for so many basketball fans. And I guess the tricky thing here is that Indiana has never won the NBA championship, and you just don't know if this roster is designed for them to go again next year and go as close or even go one better. This could have been their only shot, which is why Haliburton played through a calf strain for 5 games, hoping that he'd get it done and that his body would hold up. And he knew the risks, and so sadly, it didn't. Obviously, everyone wishes him a really speedy recovery. He's a fabulous player. He gets on the wick of certain teams, which is how it should be when you've got the quality he has. And he is someone you would implicitly trust to win you a game in the final seconds. However this Game 7 was going, if it was tight and it was going into the final minutes and Haliburton was still available, he could quite easily have won it, the game, the series and the championship for the Pacers. As it so happens, he's probably going to miss most of next year, and that's such a galling situation. Some of the footage of him shaking his teammates' hands as they came off and went down to the rooms afterwards, it was such a shame that it had to end like that. And we'll never exactly know how it would have played out, obviously, had he been fit for the whole way through. And OKC didn't really deal with the situation very well, to be honest. They struggled to dial in their offense for most of the game. And it wasn't until the third quarter where they really stepped it up defensively that they could kind of kick on and get it done. There's something satisfying in seeing a team that's really proven they've deserved it over the course of 10 months actually getting the job done in the end. And unlike Indiana, the way OKC's roster looks, people in the US clearly want to talk about a dynasty and how long maybe they could put this together and maybe attach 1, 2, 3 rings to the one they've just picked up. But what I love about OKC is that they still seem to be so in the present as a culture, as a team. They're wedded to this idea that it's all about what you're doing now. And Jalen Williams spoke so beautifully after winning his first ring about just staying in the moment. It was lovely. And that's sort of how it should be, and actually how a lot of sports stars almost deal with the fact that they're coming up against these hurdles that they've got to try and beat, and these opponents that want to beat them. It's a pretty elite mindset that fortunately we don't all have to worry about. But by the same token, the lesson of actually living in the moment is pretty useful. Now, at the start of the series, there was a bit about the fact that it might not be that appealing a series for general NBA fans because of the two relatively small market teams. But I had a great message through from Reese Griffin, who I think summed it up pretty well. Reese said, "This NBA series has been pleasantly surprising. It's been very competitive when the general consensus was that it was going to be very one-sided in the Thunder's favour." And I guess that was the point. The Pacers kept proving themselves at each turn, smashing their own expectations and what everyone had of them. And in some ways, their run to the finals and through the finals will be just as memorable in 2025 as the fact OKC won it. Now, I am wearing my Oklahoma City Thunder vest, but I'm also wearing a old one, 35, KD, Kevin Durant. The K is for Kevin, the D is for Durant. Works on many levels. A, OKC, NBA champions. B, KD actually did his Achilles in the NBA Finals a few years ago too, and things played out similarly for the Golden State Warriors. And on the morning of Game 7, we had a bit of a shocker with the fact that Kevin Durant is moving to the Houston Rockets. Very exciting. So maybe that did catch a few people on the hop. Our postseason coverage over at The Athletic kicked in pretty sharpish after the news, and you can read plenty about the trade as well as Game 7 of the NBA Finals as well. There's loads of great stuff there, so check it out. And the guys will be keeping tabs on all the moves and the draft as well as it comes along in the NBA off-season, so check that out. As for the other sports, well, I did have the weekend off, so I didn't watch much of the Club World Cup, especially live, but I did catch up on all the highlights. It was great. Well done, everyone. Mostly on my mind right now is poor Tommy Fleetwood. He was in the Travellers' Championship. He had a putt to at least have a playoff to win the title, if not win the championship itself. He's not been in this position very often, and certainly not for a fair while. Now, the commentator said that his putt was always going right. Now, to me, it clearly hit something that isn't supposed to be on a lovely flat green, and it just jabbed left. Right, jabbed right. Took it offline. He missed the putt. Keegan Bradley holed his, and that was it. Bradley was the champion, and Tommy Fleetwood was left to rue a piece of grass, which I guess is how golf works. But my God, that is so frustrating. His post-round comments, you could see how much it really, really hurt. So I think we should all spare a moment for poor Tommy. And if I may just flag a couple of pieces. The first one is James Horncastle writing about Inter Milan using references to the TV show Severance. What more do you want? There'll be a link to that. Give it a read. It's sensational. And then there is the beautiful man that is Tim Spears. Now, he seems to be on a gig at the moment where he gets to go to Britain's poshest sports events and write about them. Now, Tim is just such a wonderful writer that he has just got so much to work with in terms of going to these events. I'm pretty sure he went to the boat race. He's just been to Royal Ascot. It is every bit as good as you would imagine. I'll put a link to that in the notes as well. Give that one a read too. Now, the good thing about this sports social is your messages and comments and just sending me something by any which way you can. I love hearing from you, and then we can talk about them in here. That's kind of the point, really. And on Friday, I mentioned the best sports stars who failed to win the thing that they should have won because of their talent. It was all based on Conor McDavid losing out on the Stanley Cup final for the second year on the trot. So we had Simon Jerry in touch. Simon said, Sterling Moss. He should have been Formula One champion. I think Sterling Moss is the grade A contender for this title constantly. Mike Abram was also in touch, and he said Mike Trout, who's a baseball player, he made just 3 postseason appearances despite multiple MVP awards, which does feel particularly unfortunate for poor Mike. I must admit, I didn't really think about that one much over the course of the weekend, so I haven't got any to add, but obviously if there's any more, let us know. Your best sporting star who somehow missed out on the one thing that they should have won, the big cheese. And there'll also be some Formula One chat hopefully later in the week, which I'm going to save because I'm covering the Formula One at the weekend when it's in Austria, which I'm very much looking forward to, so that will be a good way into that. Also on my week, there is Esperance, which is not the beautiful place in Western Australia that I'm really hoping to visit at some point. It's miles away though, because it is Western Australia. No, it's not that. It is Esperance or ES Tunis who are playing in the Club World Cup against Chelsea, which is quite an important game, so it turns out, for both sides in terms of making it through to the knockout stages of the competition. So I'm going to be covering that for The Athletic with Austin Green. So join me on The Athletic for that. I will see you there, unless you don't really care, which is fine. It's Chelsea, but they might get knocked out, and that would be quite funny. And it's a little bit late here in Oz because I have just finished recording the latest edition of our summer series for the Tactics podcast on our football architects. So keep an eye out for that. Jacob Whitehead has done a brilliant job on these, and it was a really interesting chat. So that was on data in football, which we've done a few times. This was another little take, and there's some great interviews in it as well. So they'll all be going live on the Athletic FC Tactics podcast feed. Wherever you get your podcasts, dig it out and I will let you know when they're live. I think that is it for this Global Sports Social. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do keep those comments and questions coming in. I love reading them and I want to share them too. Whatever it is on a sporting context, something I've missed, something I should have brought up, something I should know about. The England-India test at the moment. Premier League transfers if you're really desperate. Hey, even Norwich City. Ask away and we'll take it from there. But before I go, let me leave you with my sports thought of the day. Now, if you'd have been Tyrese Haliburton, what would you have done ahead of Game 7? Yeah, I think we all know the answer, don't we? Until next time.